welcome. Welcome back to class. Today is a beautiful day, and I'm so happy to be here. Today, we want to continue with our studies, and we want to cover some interesting things today. Today's lesson, we are going to begin with choosing a name for your website. And we are going to be addressing you as a company, and we want you to think in terms of a company so that you'll be able to provide services to others after this training. Even if you are an employee of a company, your company is your client, all right? And so the service you are providing to your company, you are providing it to a client. And so we want you to think in terms of a company and a client, and we want you to set yourself up as a company. So you are going to have your own company name, your own company address. And so let's use this opportunity to go through the process of coming up with a dream web company. This particular approach to learning will help you get a different perspective and will help you acquire skills in a different way. It is going to help you get the skills and the understanding you need to be able to deliver to the real world and to serve your company and to serve other clients as well. All right, so today's lesson, we will be tasking you to think of a name. What name do you want to use for the rest of the project, the journey for our website project? So think of the name you are going to use, and we are going to think in terms of a company name. So don't just choose a name that is like a nickname or choose a name that is not business-like. We want you to think business-like. So we'll be giving you some tips that will help you to choose the right name. So that is what the first part of this lesson is for. And then we will cover the remaining parts, and we will start with moving forward to register names, and then we'll move on to web hosting. All right. So like I mentioned, there are billions of websites online on the World Wide Web. And these websites, they are hosted on massive web servers. The websites that we use are on servers, web servers. Anytime you use your phone, your laptop to visit any website, you are actually communicating with a server. The server is where the website files are stored and where your request goes to. And so we who work behind the scenes in the technical side, we actually need to understand how these servers operate and how to configure them and how to use them to serve millions of customers around the world. These servers are housed in what we call data centers, and these data centers are like warehouses that store servers, and they serve the whole world. Yes, and so when we say the internet, this particular internet we say, they are actually physical places where the resources we look for are stored. So there are companies who manage data centers, and in the whole world, as people are browsing the web, they are actually visiting the servers of these companies. Now, every second, a new website is created. Websites are being worked on every time. And people who work on websites, they are people who connect the world. And so if you learn how to create a website, you learn how to put things on the web and help the world to be connected and to receive information. Ever since the first website was created by Tim Berners-Lee on August 6, 1991, website creators have been valuable people who are always sought after. No matter your field in tech, you need to have the understanding of putting up a website. Every tech professional should be able to put up a website with ease. And going through this process will allow you to learn a lot of skills that will make your journey easier as you move forward. These web creators are called webmasters. And so this is a quick intro to this module, and I welcome you to go into details. And before we get into details, I want to begin by saying that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. We are on a beautiful journey that may be 1,000 miles, but it begins with a simple step, a single step. So today we are taking a step. Every day you take a step. All that you want to achieve that may seem far away, you get closer when you take a step. Every lecture is a step. Every session is a step. Every exercise, every project is a step. And little by little, we get there and we achieve success. I remember one motivational message we read here. It says that there's no shortcut to success. You have to take the stairs. So as we take the stairs, we take steps one at a time, and we develop valuable skills that will make a difference tomorrow. All the great people you see out there, all the successful people you see out there, all the geniuses out there, they all went through the process, took the steps one at a time. And for you to get there, you need to take the steps one at a time. All right. So, like I mentioned, this program is divided into 4 modules. And the first module is about domains. And so today we'll cover all that we need to cover about domains. And then tomorrow we'll move on to web hosting. So today we will figure out the name we want to use. We'll give you some time to think about it overnight. And probably the first thing we'll do tomorrow is to register a name. So I will see if it will be possible for us to register a live name. But then any name we register in class should be something that will be used. There is one project that I'm thinking of that's one particular client wants us to look at. And so I'll see if it is possible and ready. We will use it as a live demo to go through the registration process. And after we register it, we link it to a server, and then we take it from there. But tomorrow, we are going to get into web hosting, and all of you should get ready to register your domain names. All right. So we'll be covering all of these topics apart from the bottom 3 here, which we will be discussing as we move on. And I've also touched on monetization on the first day that websites can make money, and you can create websites that can generate revenue. And Google, Facebook, all these companies, they generate a lot of revenue with the types of websites they have. And when we get to web design, we'll be talking about the magazine and the news websites and the type of websites that can generate revenue. And if anybody here wants to put up such a website, you can understand what you need to do and you do that. And all these websites, every website out there has a value and a ranking. This ranking helps you in search engine ranking or search ranking, and it also helps the worth of your website. As your website grows, the website itself gets value, and is the website gets value, and there is a price tag to the value of certain websites or most websites based on how popular and how effective that website is. And so this is just a quick intro, and I'm going to get started. Before I zoom into my main lecture, I'm going to play a very short clip, and after that, we will start thinking of how to choose a name for our web company. So let me share my screen again, and let's watch this video. And I could have played it here, but I want to play it on VLC so that we hear it properly. All right, so let me reshare, and we will get right into this. Tonight is going to be fun. All right, so let's do it this way.
How should you use your domain name? Well, there are as many ways as there are individuals and businesses. Just to give you an idea, GoDaddy.com manages tens of millions of domains for millions of customers. Yet each domain is unique. Each has its own purpose and reason. Let's look at how you might use yours. Perhaps the most important thing about a domain is that it's yours. It's your piece of real estate on the internet, there for you to use and develop as you see fit. In fact, it's a great way to list actual property for sale. For only a few dollars a year, your domain can do so many things. It can protect your name or brand. You can use it to build a website on your own or get personal help from GoDaddy. You can sell virtually any product or promote virtually any service. Post your resume, register your baby's name, and then post photos or videos. Start a blog. In the search box, GoDaddy.com is the world's largest domain name registrar, web hosting, and SSL certificate provider. In fact, for 5 consecutive years, GoDaddy.com has been voted Best Registrar in the Domain Name Wire annual survey. We're proud to be the global market leader and pleased to serve more than 11 million customers. Us for domains, websites, and everything. Do me everything at most competitive prices on the planet, backed by superior customer service. Available 7 days a week and 365 days a year. And unlike others, our customer service we're also recognized as an industry leader in the fight against spam, phishing, fraud, and other abuses that can threaten your online experience. We use proprietary monitoring for all of our networks, as well as our own physical security force. Rest assured, your data is safe with GoDaddy.com.
All right. So rest assured, your data is safe with GoDaddy.com. GoDaddy remains the #1 domain registrar in the world. And so anyone in the web business knows about GoDaddy and probably works with GoDaddy. All right. So what I'm going to do is to take us through the process of choosing a name, because the rest of this project, we are going to do that by working with your name. So you are going to get your name and you are going to get your server and you are going to build your website. And so, like we mentioned, there are 3 steps or 3 processes we go through anytime we want a website. First step is called domain registration. And so everyone here is going to register a domain name. You are going to register a domain name yourself, and you are going to go through the process of registering the name and gaining the experience you need in registering name. So are going to use for a whole year for you to manage and to keep your project up. And your project is going to be up for a whole year. You are going to be able to log onto your server, build a website, manage the server, configure it, and do a whole lot with your server. And we are going to build a world-class website on your account. You are going to your website. This website you need to set up real websites for other clients. Well, they help you do so many other things in the tech field. All right. So before we begin, we will want to start talking about brands, brand names, company names, how to choose a name, and how to start a web company. Let's say as we starting up a company, and this company that we are going to start for you, you are going to use it to get some clients. And in this project, you are required to get 1 client and to build a website for a client. You will look for a school, a church, a company, a hotel, any organization, NGO, whatever. but you are going to get a client and you are going to build a website for a client. This is part of the training. And once you take on that initiative and you um, work on something for a client, it solidifies your skills so that you'll be able to apply the skills in the real world. There's a difference between learning in class, doing project in class, and serving a client. And so everyone will take on that challenge and you look for a client and you build a website for a client. You are going to charge for it. You can make it cheap to get it. You can make money from it, whatever it is, but you need to start thinking this way. So tonight we will talk about how to choose your name. Tomorrow we want to listen to some of the interesting company names you have come up with. Please take this seriously. Come up with a name. Come up with a name. And just for a moment, just assume that you are going to start a company. And this company, you provide web services and other tech services, okay? Don't limit the company to be a web company alone because you are going to be a tech company and you can provide other services. So just use this opportunity to create a company. And that company, at the end of this, you would have built structures for the company and you will get a client with that company name. So let's take on this exercise and let's put ourselves in this position and let's begin the journey that way. So we are going to begin by talking about the brand name or the domain name you will use for your company. Your domain name should look like the company name. All right. So the company name you come up with, it could be the same as your domain name, or your domain name should look like it. Once we see your domain name, we should understand your company. Okay. So just start thinking about it and let's look at some studies that will help us choose names. And so we will talk about some types of brand names right now, types of brand names. And the first type of brand name we'll talk about is what we call descriptive names. So please type that in the chat for me, descriptive names. And a descriptive name is refers to names that directly describe what a company does. Okay. So when you hear the name of the company, it describes what the company does. All right. We are all tech people, and everyone here should have a company, should have a company. And what is going to happen is that in a few years from now, you are going to realize that a company that you started, you took seriously and you planned and you started has made it and has become a big company. So some of the companies we are going to create, they are going to become great companies. All right. So let's just use this moment to do that. All right. So we are talking about types of companies and we have descriptive companies. For example, we have what we call General Motors. And once we hear it, it tells you about what the company does. So the name you choose, we are talking about the company name. It can be descriptive. I'm not saying it should be. I'm just giving you types. For example, PayPal, once you hear it, it gives you an idea of what the company does. Number two, we also have invented or made up names. So please type invented names. You can invent a name. All right. So this short study we are giving you is helping you to understand the types of company names or the types of brands we have. So we have what we call descriptive names. So you can make your company name a descriptive name or an invented name. These invented names are unique names that have no meaning whatsoever, but they sound appealing. So like Google, Google was not a name, it's not a name, an English name. It was made up. Kodak was made up, but then they created it for it to sound appealing. So you can also invent a name. Invent a name. You can invent a name or you can use a descriptive name. And when it comes to inventing names, that is where you find it easier to get your domain name, all right? Because if the name is invented, it is kind of unique and something that people have not thought of. And so you are able to get the name easily because if the domain name is not available, you can't use it. So any name you create right now, you need to make sure that the domain is available. All right. So we are going to create a company. We are going to create a company. And from tonight, we are starting companies for all of you, and all of you are going to be CEOs of your own companies. CEOs of your own companies. We are started now. Number three, your name could be an acronym, shortened versions of longer names. So, for example, IBM. IBM is a short version of a longer name. And then we also have KFC. So company could be an acronym. It could be an invented name. It could be a descriptive name. And it could also be an evocative name. Please type evocative name for me. Evocative name. Please type that in the chat for me. Evocative names. So evocative names are names that suggest the brand's position or the spirit of the brand or suggest the vision of the brand or the mission of the brand or the values that the brand is bringing to the market rather than directly describing the business. So it is possible to create a name out of a vision, all right? Out of a vision. So Rate Africa is a vision. So the name can come from a vision. So example, we have Nike and we have Amazon. These names, when they were looking for them, they thought of their motivation rather than what the company does. So your name doesn't necessarily have to sound like what a company does. It could be, so there are types. You just have to choose a type that works for you. All right. So the name Nike, I did some small research on it, is derived from the Greek goddess of victory. All right. And evokes the feeling of triumph, strength, and success. This association aligns with the brand's mission to inspire athletes and promote a spirit of excellence and achievement. So they created this name, Nike or Nike, out of the spirit of excellence. That is what inspired them to choose that name because it denoted victory for athletes. So that is the meaning behind it. And the meaning behind Amazon, please type Amazon in the chat. Amazon is actually an amazing company. And I mean, why will someone choose a name Amazon? It doesn't sound anything like what the company does. Like I mentioned to you yesterday, GoDaddy. People hear GoDaddy and they go like, what is GoDaddy? Is GoDaddy? It doesn't sound like a web company. It doesn't sound like a tech company. What is GoDaddy? So it has a meaning. And when they explain the meaning to you, you are going to get it. So to create a company name, we want you to think, we want you to think of a name that can become global. Don't think local. Don't think of a name that will be restricted tomorrow. Don't think of a name that will not cannot go to the international stage. All right. Choose a name that tomorrow, if the company becomes big, that name can still sound amazing. Okay. Look at Amazon. Amazon, what they did was that they they made sure the Amazon itself has a meaning, and they made sure that the Amazon sounds like A to Z. Now, what is the meaning of A to Z? When I say A to Z, what does it mean? Anybody? When we say A to Z, what does it mean? Anybody? A to Z, what does it mean? Everything. I like that. So look at their logo. Look at their logo. You see how they designed their logo? Their logo is from A to Z. Okay, beginning to end. So if you look at their logo, you can see that the logo is trying to tell you something that at Amazon, we do everything. So from A to Z. That's what inspires the company name. All right. And so Amazon suggests a sense of vastness, diversity, and abundance, aligning with the brand's position as a one-stop destination for a wide range of products. The name Amazon is inspired by the world's largest rainforest. Wow. So that is where they picked the name from. It is the world's largest rainforest, which is known for its immense size and a variety of life forms. Wow. So they chose this name because of vision. So you can also choose a name like that. And if you take your time to choose the right name, your name will make a difference for you. The first step in building a successful company is choosing the right name. Choosing the right name. We'll talk a lot about it. Also, we have names that are chosen based on the founders' names. All right. So, for example, we have Ford, we have Dell. They were created out of the names of their founders. All right. So the next thing we'll talk about will be how to choose a name. All right. And number one, the number one says keep it simple. Please type it in the chat. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. So the first thing we will do in this class is to make sure that everyone has a name. All right. You are going to come up with a unique name. All right. So no matter what you were thinking before, we want you to think again and choose a name that is amazing. Tomorrow, when you share your name, let it inspire the whole class. Let everyone see and be amazed. All right. Let's know that wow, your name is great. All right. So the first thing you need to do to choose the right name is to keep it simple. Please type it in the chat for me. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. All right. So make sure your name is simple. Keep it simple. In the morning class, I told them that let's do it this way. Instead of saying keep it simple, let's change it. And let's say keep it simple and short to form the acronym KISS. All right. So keep it simple and short means KISS. And it's not a case you are thinking about, but it helps you to remember to keep it simple and short. So your name should be simple and short. Simple and short. Wow, that's amazing. You know, if you ask people what if you ask people what their company name should look like or will be, if you ask random people, you are going to hear interesting things and you are going to hear interesting names. You are going to hear names that you don't know what inspired them, what was running through their minds before coming up with such a name. Some names are just horrible. They are so difficult to pronounce. You need help to pronounce it, and so difficult to remember. You actually have to hear it over and over, or you have to be an employee who has now come to understand the name before it will make sense to you and you can pronounce it. We need to move away from all of that and choose names that are straightforward and simple and short. Think of the big company names, all right? Think of the big companies. Just think of them. They have simple names. Tesla, simple. Tesla, Glow, Google, Facebook, Meta. Just think of the big company. Just think for a moment. All the giant companies. Look at their names for a minute, just for a minute. Think of their names. They all have simple names. They don't have strange um, um Mr. Coleco and Sons Ventures Limited. They don't have strange names. They are very simple names. So these names were either inspired by vision, were short forms of what a company does. All that we have talked about. Your name should be simple and it should have a maximum of 3 syllables. Maximum. Maximum. You see, think of Google. Google has how many syllables? Two. The sounds in it. Google. 2 syllables. Think of Facebook, 2 syllables. Tesla, 2 syllables. Glow, 1 syllable. Think of all the big companies. All right. It should be so simple. Should have 2 syllables. By mentioning, by having 2 syllables in your name, it's not going to be hard for people to remember it. All right. So it's best to come up with a name that people need 2 sounds. They don't need, it shouldn't be strange. It shouldn't be long. Your name shouldn't be long. Your name can be something short. Look at Meta. Meta is a company. Google is a company. Think of all the big companies. They have simple names. So start thinking like that. Number two, make sure the name is memorable. A name that is easy to pronounce. A name that even when an old lady is pronouncing, she can pronounce if she can read. People don't need help to pronounce your name. People shouldn't see your name on your letterhead and they're on the phone with you and they say, how do you pronounce your name? It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. The time that you are taking to teach people how to pronounce your name, other companies are thriving. Marketing is going to be hard. It's going to be hard to advertise for people to keep your name. And for most people, they buy things because they know a name. If your name is not known, it will be hard for people to buy from you. People buy things because they have the name in mind. When people go to the supermarkets, if you do an analysis of how sales are made, people look at products, choose the one that the name registers in their mind. And so if it takes long to register your name in the memories and the minds of people, then it is going to be difficult to sell your company and your products. After 20 years, you realize that you have spent more time, more work, more resources into just letting people know your name because the name is what sells the product. So choose a name, put everything aside. Okay, I remember um, events on national and global scales. sometimes people come like footballers. Somebody will come with a strange name, and the coach will say that no, we will call you this from this day. And from that day, they start calling him that, and the person becomes a star because he came with a strange name, and the coach said, no, 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 no. We will call you like this. Mention one syllable name or two syllable name, and the person took it. All right. So your name shouldn't be something that will remember. I know this firsthand because sometimes when we are having reality shows, when I was at TV3, people who are now becoming stars, they come and they need to put their name on TV3 Mentor. They need to put their name on Ghana's Most Beautiful. They need to be known by the nation. And experts tell them that this name that you are coming to put on TV is wrong. So they'll give them a name. Call yourself this, or go and change your name. So all the stars that you hear of, all the stars you hear of, all right, the name that they are working with, it is because of brand image and brand promotion. So they intentionally choose their name. Okay, they intentionally choose their names. All right. Also make sure it's unique and the name is distinct from competitors to avoid confusion. So don't take somebody's name. Don't try to make your name like another company. There is no use. There's no use. You can draw inspiration from one company name, but create something completely different. All right? Create something completely different. But your name should not compete with somebody's name. Be unique, stand out. Number 4, make it easy to spell. When somebody hears your name without seeing it, they should be able to spell it. All right, it should sound spellable. The spelling of your name should not be different from how it sounds and how they pronounce it. It should be easy. All right, so choose a name. So we are spending time on this because if your name is not right, a lot of things can go wrong. So you choose your name right, and that name, choosing the right name alone can inspire your company to greatness and to a lot of success. Also think of versatility. This is very, very, very important. Okay. Opt for a name that can accommodate future growth and diversification. Don't think of a name that limits you. All right. So, for example, the name you come up with, it should be a name that you promote, whatever will inspire you, whether a tech name or whatever. It doesn't matter, but something should inspire you to come up with that name. But don't limit the service. Okay, for example, in Ghana, when you go to the Registrar General, they will ask you to list the things your company does. And let's say your name is something something web limited. If you now come and say you do electronics, you list that you want to do electronics, or you want to do imports and exports, or you want to do um, let's say you want to do AI and other things, they'll tell you that you can't do that because the name limits you from doing that. Your name says something something web something. So it's like you can only do web things. Okay. For example, your name is laptop repairer experts or laptop repair experts. All right. So if you choose that name, you can't provide other services that are not within that name. So you will not be registered legally to provide other services. All right. So the name that you are going to choose, it should accommodate diversification. In future, when you diversify, when you add more services, when you grow, the name should be able to contain the services that you want to provide. Okay, so it should accommodate future growth and should accommodate diversification. Also, do not use hyphens and numbers in your name. Refrain from that. Unless one number can make it unique, and it's fine. But your domain name should not have hyphens, even though hyphens are allowed. It makes it confusing. So just do the hard work. Sometimes it's hard to find a name. Sometimes you have to think for days before the right name comes. So you choose the right name. Number 7, consider scalability. Just like I mentioned, ensure that the name remains relevant if the business expands or goes international. Now, the name you are choosing, does it limit you to Nigeria? Does it limit you to South Africa? Does it limit you to a community? Does it limit you to Ghana? Is it a name that sounds so local that the name cannot compete on the global scale? I mean, on the global market. The name that you are choosing, even though you are now starting, the name should be able to appear on an international stage and still sound okay. Okay, so when you're choosing the name, think big, think global, think international. Think of a name that inspires you and can become a global name that everybody in the world can accept. Also, ask your friends and family to test the pronunciation, the spelling, and how memorable the name is. So you look at all of these to choose a name, and you need to test it. Don't try convincing someone to believe what you are saying, but let them give you their honest opinion on how the name sounds and how to pronounce it and how to spell it and how memorable it is. You have to get some input from others. Then it's very important to check for availability. No matter what you do, if you choose a name that someone else has registered the domain name, you can't use it. Even if the name is an inspiration to you, if someone has it, you drop it. So check the availability and, if possible, register it and protect it. So perform a trademark search, a domain availability search, and also social media handle search. You can also check the social media handles. And sometimes you dream of a name, you check the domain, and the domain is available, and quickly register it. After registering it, you check the social media handles. And if nobody has used them, then you take them immediately for your brand and your business. Also, think of the emotional appeal. Choose a name that aligns with the emotions or the values you want to convey. So, just like we mentioned, evocative names, your name should align with the emotions or values you want to convey. Your name should not mean something negative in your language and in other languages. So we'll talk about cultural sensitivity. Your name should not it has to be appropriate in different languages or regions. And there are some names that they sound okay in your language, but in another language they mean something negative. So it shouldn't be like that. And lastly, think about SEO. Please type SEO in the chat. If you are still following, if you can hear my voice, type SEO. I didn't say CEO. All right, you are the CEO. I type SEO, and SEO stands for search engine optimization. Search engine optimization. After you build a website, you need to optimize the website for search engines. All right, so after knowing how to create a website, you can proceed to learning about SEO, because SEO is a really, really big subject that allows your website and your company to grow. People spend millions in advertisement, advertising. At the same time, there are millions of people who are searching for services. All right. So they go to search engines like Google and they search for web developers or web designers in South Africa. Now, somebody goes and search for web designers in South Africa, and you're a web designer in South Africa. If your name appears on top of that search, it is likely you have gotten a free customer without paying for advertisement. And when millions of people are searching for things, if you pop up at the top, you realize that you are getting a lot of traffic, a lot of attention, a lot of business without paying a dime. All you have to do is to make sure that your website is optimized for search engines. Optimized for search engines. So there's something called search engine optimization. We do that on websites. So we make sure that the website is optimized so that during searching, your company should find its way to the top. Because everyone is trying to get to the top. Because when they search and you appear on the first page, and on top of the first page, you get free business. And your company can explode just because of good SEO. And your name can influence your SEO. Your name can affect how you rank. Now, when you study SEO, it's a whole new area and it entails a lot. And everyone is competing for the top page and the first page on searches. And those who make it to the top really get a lot of benefits. So there's a lot of competition when it comes to search ranking. And so your website should also be properly optimized so that you can get free business. Free business. So people get to your site just by searching. And they shouldn't search for your name because nobody knows your name. All right. People know what they need. So they search for the service. So when someone is searching, for example, as we are sitting here, do you know the number of people who are looking for web designers? Or the number of people who are looking for plumbers? Those customers, they have no idea who can do that work. So they are searching. And so if they search and you can appear, then you've gotten a free customer. And if you can appear, you are getting millions of customers or leads to your page, to your website, to your company. And SEO is free business or free market or free customers. But then you pay to get your site properly optimized. So it is something on its own that you can look into later. Talking about SEO, one of the things that helps you is to have HTTPS security on your website. Please type HTTPS for me. HTTPS. HTTPS. Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. HTTPS. Thank you. Now, the protocol that allows browsers to connect to your server using your domain name is called HTTP. HTTP is all you need. It is a protocol that takes you online. Anytime you type an address in a browser, there is HTTP in front of it, whether you see it or not. And sometimes the browser hides it, okay? And so the browser can hide both the HTTP and the www dot, and they will just reveal your domain name. So if you go to Chrome right now and you visit any website, let's visit amazon.com. You see, right now we are seeing only amazon.com. But when you zoom in and you click on this, you will see that the HTTPS and the www dot will appear. These are default protocols that without them, we cannot locate the server hosting amazon.com. So every website address will have this in front of them. Actually, it is HTTP that does the job. But the job that HTTP is doing, HTTP does it plainly. What do I mean by that? When someone goes to a browser and requests for information on your server, their request goes in plain English or plain text. There's nothing wrong sending a plain text request, but if the request contains sensitive information, for example, anytime you are logging into any portal, you type username and password, your password is also part of the transmission. And we learned that anything you click on or any request you make, it goes through the sea and locates your server wherever it is across the globe and finds it. And whatever information that needs to get to the server travels with the request. If it is a password username, it will travel with the request in plain English. And so what happens is that attackers are able to intercept this communication during transit or the transmission. It is very, very easy. It's very, very easy. Last time I mentioned how attackers can let you log on to their free Wi-Fi. If you are on any Wi-Fi or if you are on any network, those controlling the network, or if someone has hacked into the network, they can use simple software like Wireshark to see everything you are transmitting, every information leaving your computer. So you are browsing in a cafe and you are just browsing, but someone with a software can see everything leaving your machine over the network. It's very, very easy. And there are sophisticated tools that can intercept communication. And so because of website security, any website that contains any sensitive information or requires any sensitive information should have HTTPS. And for you to get the HTTPS, you need to purchase security for your site. And this particular security you are purchasing, you will apply for something we call a digital certificate. Digital certificate. Please type digital certificate in the chat. Digital certificate. Digital certificate. If you apply for a digital certificate, then once the certificate is issued onto your website, then your website gets the security. It is a digital certificate that gives you the security. And the security that it gives you is referred to as SSL. SSL, please type SSL. SSL, please put that in the chat for me. SSL. So you can call it SSL digital certificate or SSL certificate. Now, this SSL, later I will talk about TLS, is the certificate that your website is issued. So if you have a website that has any form of sensitive information, it is required that you get a certificate issued to your website or for your website. That security certification, once it is issued, you get a stamp of the S. So any website that gets the S, they get the S out of extra effort. The S is not automatic. You don't get an S, you get HTTP, like you see here. That is what you get, and that is what it is. But if you want to add another layer of protection or security to your website to protect your customers, then you need to take an extra step. This is not domain privacy like we spoke about yesterday. This one is a step to provide security for your website. Like I mentioned, this security is necessary because any communication between customers and the website is in plain text, in plain English, plain text. Today, when you are using WhatsApp, they'll tell you that your communication has end-to-end encryption. This means when a message leaves a sender, no hacker can intercept the message and understand what it means. If a hacker does a good job and understands or intercepts the message, intercepts the message, what they are going to get is an encrypted text. Maybe you send something simple like hello. The attacker will never see hello, they'll see gibberish, encrypted code. But when it gets to the recipient, it is decrypted and becomes hello. So we call that end-to-end encryption. Please put that in the chat for me. End-to-end encryption. End-to-end encryption. Put that in the chat for me. In cybersecurity, you are going to learn about cryptography and you learn about encryption. And so if you have SSL, what that means is that your website has gotten an extra layer of security and has gotten end-to-end encryption. This means that any information that is leaving your site, listen, let me explain it well. Any information that is leaving your visitor's browser to your web server leaves encrypted. So someone can type their username and password, but it will not travel in plain text. It will travel encrypted. When it gets to your server will decrypt it because your server has the private key. When you get an SSL, you are given public keys and private keys. And the keys you are given is what is used to encrypt the data. And it is only the private key on the server, and it is only your server that can decrypt it. If the message lands anywhere else, it's not going to land in English. It will land in gibberish. All right. So all that I said is that some websites have S after the HTTP. To get the S, you need to purchase a certificate. That certificate is called it's called a digital certificate, and it is called SSL. Other times we have TLS, which is also the name of another encryption, but mostly it is SSL. So once you have the SSL, your website gets that end-to-end encryption, and it provides a lot of benefits. Number one, it gives customers the assurance that their data will not be intercepted. Any form they fill on your website will not be intercepted by hackers. Any data they provide on your website will not be intercepted. So it gives customers assurance that your website has security. And so every website that has the sound of finance or the sound of payment or the sound of sensitive information needs SSL. Like e-commerce websites need SSL, banking sites, any sites that you fill any form, you provide any form of personal information should have SSL. And today, SSL has been valued so much than before. Before, if you didn't have SSL, it was okay. But today, even browsers are telling people that this website doesn't have SSL, so it's not secure. And they put a tag, not secure, on the URL in the address bar. They put a tag, not secure. So if you visit any website that doesn't have SSL, they are doing that these days. I don't know any website. Yes, you see, a personal blog, it's not every site that really needs SSL, okay? If a website, like a company's website, has no form of sensitive information, has nothing to protect, and every information has actually been made public on the site, there's nothing they want to hide, SSL is not really needed, because the purpose of the SSL is to encrypt information inputted on the site. But if the website doesn't take any input, it just provides information for viewers to read. And every information is already provided on the site. There's nothing to hide or nothing to encrypt. So you don't really need it. But today, browsers have actually emphasized security, that if your site doesn't have SSL, they even target. They target. Let's see the Bank of Ghana yesterday we opened. If they have SSL, maybe they do. Is it bankofghana.com? Okay, they have SSL. All right, so I'll tell you how to get SSL. So right now, because of this thing I'm seeing here, I know it has SSL. If you didn't have SSL, you will not see this. You are going to see not secure. Okay, so we'll come across domains that do not have SSL, and you'll see that they are not secure. We'll come across that. Another benefit of SSL is that if you have it, it helps in your SEO ranking. So search engines will rank your sites or will rank websites that have security. And so because of SSL alone, it is advisable to have SSL, sorry, because of SEO alone, it is advisable to have SSL just for the purpose of ranking, because it is part of the requirement to rank higher in search engines. And so these days, it has become necessary. And SSL is not cheap. However, we will show you a way to get SSL for free. And you can protect your website with HTTPS without paying for. But SSL is not free. SSL is for sale. If your customers need SSL, they need to pay for it. You can do all the research on SSL. You can see that they have monthly and yearly prices or fees. So if a company wants SSL, they need to pay for SSL. So after they pay for the domain, the hosting, the website designing, they pay for SSL as well. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is that we have types of SSL. Types of SSL. Please put that in the chat for me. Types of SSL. Types of SSL. Types of SSL. Types of SSL. All right. Now, an SSL certificate is a digital certificate that authenticates a website's identity. So apart from your communication being encrypted end to end, having SSL also means that your company or your website identity has been authenticated by a certificate authority. Please type CA and add certificate authority for me, because these authorities are the ones that issue certificates. These are digital certificates that will be signed with your website. And certificates are issued by a third party. The third parties that issue digital certificates for websites to provide SSL security, we call them certificate authorities or CAs. And what they do is that they authenticate the website identity based on the type of certificate purchased. There are some certificates, they will make sure that the domain is valid. It ties to the domain. They check the domain to check the authenticity of the domain before the certificate is issued. That's the lowest form of certificate you can get. There are other certificates that will require the company to be checked, the company to be investigated before the certificate is issued. So there are types of certificates that we are going to look at. But now you have to understand that anytime you get a certificate, you get the HTTPS. In the past, you got a green lock on your site and sometimes a green bar. These days, they've modified a lot of things, so you don't see that. But once you see that there's HTTPS, it means there's a digital certificate, and you can click on that round thing I showed you, and you can look at the certificate, look at where it was issued from, and get more information about the certificate on the browser. Now, this SSL, it stands for Secure Sockets Layer. Please type that in the chat for me. Secure Socket Layer, SSL. So in cybersecurity, you go more into other forms of encryptions, other forms of securities, and SSL is one of the securities in the field of cybersecurity. And it is a security protocol that creates an encrypted link between a web server and a browser. So this means that anytime your website is being browsed, there is a secure link. And that secure link ensures that every communication is encrypted, encrypted, encrypted. Please type encrypted in the chat for me. Encrypted, 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 encrypted. All right. So if you study cryptography, you will learn about plain text and you learn about ciphertext. Plain text is a term or phrase used to represent data that is not encrypted. And ciphertext is a phrase used to represent data or communication that has been encrypted. So when you receive a ciphertext, it has not yet been decrypted. So you are looking at gibberish, something that doesn't make sense. Now, I'm going to play two videos. One will highlight the meaning of SSL and gives us more understanding of it. And one will talk about the types of SSL. After that, we will move on to the rest of the lesson. So let me quickly play the video, and if you can hear the sound, let me know in the chat.
The topic of having an SSL on your website is often raised on business forums and webmaster blogs. Often the subject of much confusion, SSLs are actually quite simple, but yet do have huge potential, good and bad. So what is an SSL and what exactly does it do? Let's first look at what SSL does. In simple terms, once installed, an SSL encrypts or scrambles information sent to and from your website. The obvious question is, why would you want to do this? The reason, quite simply, is security. Imagine you have a form on your website. The form may ask personal questions, or it might even take credit or debit card details. If someone, for example a customer, completes this form, the data is sent from the user's computer to your website. The data is sent pretty much as is. However, if someone, a hacker for example, wished to intercept this data, they potentially could. In fact, this would be as easy as being within range of the user's Wi-Fi router with some free software installed on their laptop. Once they run the software and intercept the data, they would very easily be able to read it. Obviously, if this data includes credit or debit card details or passwords, is a security concern. A hacker could still intercept the data, but it would be completely unreadable to them. Because of the encryption applied by the SSL, the data is converted into complex code at the user's end and decoded back at the website server's end. At the point the hacker could intercept over Wi-Fi, the data would be unreadable. So how do you know if a site has an SSL? There are a couple of ways you will know this. Most web browsers will display a small lock or padlock icon if you're viewing a secure site. This is your web browser's way of letting you know you're viewing a secure site. The address of a secure website will start with HTTPS rather than HTTP. Do users care? Overwhelming evidence suggests that they do care. The confidence of knowing a website is protected by an SSL allows users to enter personal information without the worry of that data being insecure. Showing your customers that you have taken the effort and cost to install an SSL shows them that you are conscious of security and that you're concerned about protecting their privacy. Is an SSL required? It very much depends on your website. If you're taking credit or debit card details directly on your site, you may be subject to terms and conditions of privacy and PCI regulations, which require you to transmit data securely. If you're planning to sell via your website on Google Shopping, you'll need to have an SSL. It's also important to note that Google's official webmaster guidelines do clarify that having an SSL is a ranking factor, and as such your website will perform better on Google search if it has an SSL installed. What are the dangers? Whilst having an SSL is almost a no-brainer, it's very important to have your SSL installed properly. All pages of your website should perform a 301 redirect to the new HTTPS address. And you should also take actions with your Search Console and Analytics accounts to account for the changes of the address. Remember, changing your website address to HTTPS is effectively as dangerous as moving your website to a totally new address and should be handled with extreme care. Hope you found this video useful. Don't forget to visit us at www.makeusvisible.co.uk and follow us here for more digital marketing advice.
In today's video, we'll be discussing the various types of SSL certificates. But before we do that, it's necessary to consider what is an SSL certificate. An SSL certificate is a digital certificate that authenticates a website's identity and enables an encrypted connection. SSL stands for Secure Socket Layer. The primary motivation for HTTPS is authentication of the accessed website and protection of the privacy and integrity of the exchange data while in transit. For example, it protects against man-in-the-middle attacks and the bidirectional encryption of communications between a client and server, protects the communications against eavesdropping and tampering. The most prominent way you notice SSL certificates is HTTPS in the web browser address bar when surfing a secured website. An example of this is https://webforafrica.ng. These days, HTTPS uses Transport Layer Security (TLS) as the communication protocol for encryption. The protocol is therefore also referred to as HTTP over TLS. However, that is a whole other topic. So then, what are the types of SSL certificates? The most common way to distinguish between the types of SSL certificates is the different validation processes during procurement from Authorized Certificate Authorities, CAs. There are three major types of SSL certificates available today: Extended Validation, EVSSL, Organization Validation, OVSSL, and Domain Validation, DVSSL. We'll start with Domain Validation SSLs. The lowest level of authentication is used to validate these SSL certificates before issuing. Primarily, the validity of the domain ownership is confirmed. To pass the domain control validation process, the certificate applicants can choose between email, DNS, or HTTP. Email is a common means of validation. The certificate authority typically issues this certificate within 5 minutes after the domain validation. They are great for personal use. OVSSL. Now let's talk about Organization Validation SSL. As the name implies, the validity of the organization applying for the certificate is authenticated. This is in addition to the domain validation. So, before an OVSSL is issued, the organization's existence is confirmed and the authenticity of the person applying to do so on behalf of the said organization is also confirmed. OVSSLs give the users of a website some confidence that the organization they are interacting with is valid. The duration between application and issuance of the certificate can take between 2 and 4 days. They are great for business use. EVSSL. The validation process does go further in the case of extended validation SSL certificates. The legal status of the applying organization, the physical address, and telephone number are all validated before an EVSSL is issued. Due to the strict vetting process, the duration between application and issuance can take between 2 to 10 days, all things being equal. Websites equipped with an EV certificate get their verified company name displayed in all major browsers. All major browsers like Microsoft Edge, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, and others reveal the verified company name after clicking the padlock icon in the address bar. Major browsers no longer display the green bar for EVSSLs. However, an EVSSL certificate is still the best option for large companies or organizations, even without the green bar. This is because a website user can still find the same information when clicking on the padlock symbol. Therefore, potential customers can be safe in the knowledge that a genuine company that has been checked and vetted is running the website. EVSSLs are great for serious e-commerce websites. Thank you for watching. Remember to like this video and subscribe to this channel in order to receive future updates about useful information on how to get online.
All right. So we've heard something about SSL and we've learned a thing or two. And what I want you to do is to give me some of the types of SSL you just learned about. And this is very, very good information, very, very enlightening information for everybody. Every tech professional needs to hear this and needs to understand this. This is good. And if you're in cybersecurity, this is even better. And I want to know some of the types of SSL you just learned about. So let me see some in the chat. If you can just tell me any of the SSLs in the chat. All right. So let me see that. And what is going to happen is that, thank you. Thank you, Emmanuel. All right. So after the break, we will move on and we will talk about other things. And like I said, in this training, we will let you get introduced to an open source certificate authority because there are a lot of certificate authorities and SSL is for sale. SSL is not free, but we have some open source CEAs that can help you to get SSL for free. So we'll be talking about that as well. And your website can work with SSL. Yes, so you also learn how to install SSL on a site. And all of these things are so valuable. So let's take a short break. And when we return, we will continue. All right, so welcome back to class. We want to continue with our studies. And we're talking about SSL. And we've discussed a whole lot about choosing your name. And we've also gotten education in protecting our website. Later on, we will go through the practical steps in applying SSL to your website. At this point, you need to start thinking of the name you are going to use. And we will start thinking of getting the name registered. Getting the name registered. So that is the first practical thing we are going to do in this module. And we have been able to cover most of the concepts here. We have a few of them to touch on. So I will touch on them quickly, and then we will talk about getting your name registered. By close of this week, every name should be registered in this class. Today is Wednesday, so by tomorrow you should finalize on the name you want to use. You should finalize on the name you want to use. And then we take the steps to get it registered. Because we are going to move into web hosting. If by close of this week you don't have it registered, by next week, by this time, your name should be registered. Because by then we would have gotten to the practical stage where we actually start working on the service. So once you have your name, you can get access to a web server to use for your projects. All right. Yesterday I mentioned name servers, which is a part of DNS. and I mentioned DNS propagation. And if you remember, tell me how many hours it takes for DNS propagation to complete. If you're able to tell me, then it means you are following and you remember what we said yesterday. So 72 hours. Thank you, Mano. We talked about making payments, and making payments is really necessary. You need to have what it takes to make payments. So get a Visa card, a MasterCard, or any card from your bank that can make payments. There are some cards they call prepaid cards or virtual cards. Those cards, even if you don't have a bank account, you can get them. So find a way of getting a card that can make a payment on the domain registrar's website. We just talked about SSL, and we've already tackled whois. We've tackled domain privacy. We've tackled coupons. This coupon system is something that in the past it was a hot cake, but now it's like it's difficult to get coupons. Before it was so easy and it made registering domains very, very easy. But now it's quite difficult. But I will continue my search, and by tomorrow morning, if I don't give you a coupon that works, then it means we didn't find a coupon. An alternative may be to find a registrar who will charge less, because we don't want you to spend too much money getting your domain. So we will do that. But then at the end of the day, everyone should get a domain. So if we don't find a coupon, we don't get a registrar to buy the name for less, then we need to do our best to get the name registered. It's for your own business, for your own projects, and for your own portfolio. So you need to get your name. Then for the server, we will give you for free. So let's work on that. And I mentioned renewal yesterday, that a domain has to be renewed. So in the course of our journey, I'll try and see if we can renew a real website so that you can see the process. And we want you to see the process of everything. And I want you to go through the process of everything. Then yesterday, we also mentioned domain redirection. And whenever we talk about redirection, we are not just talking about redirecting from .net to .com or to .org. Redirection means from one domain to another domain. It could be any domain at all. Okay. Sometimes it is possible that some companies change their brand names. I'm sure you've heard of a company that has changed their brand name. Who knows of any company that has changed their brand name before? From what to what? What do you remember? Any company? Just put it in the chat for me. There are some companies that change their brand names. And so someone says Vodafone to Telecel. Let's try that. So in Ghana, we have Vodafone, and Vodafone is a global company. Vodafone is really big, and their branch in Ghana, they have changed to Telecel, and I'm sure they sold the company to Telecel. I'm not sure they rebranded as Telecel, but they sold to Telecel. I don't know the details, but I think that's what happened. Then you see in Ghana, 60% of people, you see, as for Twitter to X, it is okay, it's also a sale. Okay, they sold the company. You know, Twitter sold to Elon Musk. So they sold the company and Elon Musk decided to rebrand it. You see? So yes. So do you know that a lot of people in Ghana right now, 60% or 70 or more, still call Telecel Vodafone? Even though it is Telecel and almost everyone has heard it, people still think of Vodafone. All right. And even Twitter, people still think of Twitter. It will take time, some years for everybody to now call it X. People still call it Twitter. And so if this happens to a company, the company should not destroy their old domain name. they need to redirect. So a redirection can take place from one name to a new name. All right. So if you type twitter.com, it has to redirect you to X. You see that I did a redirection. It has redirected you to X. This is called domain redirection. You see, backlinks to APSA. It is redirection. If you go to vodafone.com.gh, that's the Ghana Vodafone address, it will now redirect. Let's see where to go to. It has gone to telecel.com. Oh my God, you can't see my screen. I'm so sorry about that. Sorry. Okay. All right. Let me do that again. So over here, I typed Twitter, okay? Twitter.com. And you see that Twitter.com has redirected straight to X.com. This is domain redirection. So domain redirection, even though people do not understand what goes on in the background, for us, we understand that it's a real configuration, and it can redirect one domain to another domain. So don't be thinking of only .net.com redirect to another extension. No, it's redirecting a name to a name. So here we have vodafone.com.gh. That is a Vodafone in Ghana's website. Vodafone is a global company, but their Ghana branch has now changed to Telecel. So now if you visit Vodafone, it's now Telecel. Why? The reason is that the company should not destroy their old name. Even though they have rebranded, they should still keep the domain. They should keep renewing the domain, and they should redirect it, because a lot of people still remember the old name, and a lot of people will use the old name thinking they are visiting the company, and they shouldn't give them an error page. They should redirect them to the new name. So if they still keep the domain, they have the control to be able to redirect them. All right. So this Telecel, was it a rebranding or it was a sale? Did they sell the company to Telecel? I need to look into that. I don't know. But then you see that they've maintained their colors and everything. Was it a rebranding or it was a sale? Those of you who know about it, I'm sure you know. All right. So it was a sale. Okay. All right. So let's move on. We've talked about redirection. Before we talk about domain parking, I want to mention subdomains. There's something called subdomains. Please put that in the chat for me. Subdomains. Subdomains. Please put that in the chat for me. Subdomains. Subdomains. All right. So we also have something we call subdomains. And subdomains are domains created out of domains. They are domains that are created to become children of a mother domain. Now, any domain you register is a normal domain. It's a mother domain. We never use the terms mother and child, but I'm just using it to explain. This means that you can create a domain out of a domain, and that setting or configuration is done on the server. So when you get access to the control panel, you'll be able to do that. So let's say, for example, we have a domain like, let's say yahoo.com. Okay, the one I use, yahoo.com. This is a domain, and every domain can have a website. So there is a website on yahoo.com. There's a website on yahoo.com. Let's see that website. So we can come here and just say yahoo.com. We are going to see a website, and Yahoo, it's been so long since I visited Yahoo. I don't know about you, but in the early 2000s, Yahoo was our #1 site, but I don't remember the last time I visited Yahoo, if not for this morning. I don't remember. All right, so this is Yahoo, and you have a site on yahoo.com. But watch this. There is something else, and this domain is called sports.yahoo.com. When you are visiting it, you just type sports.yahoo.com. When you hit enter, it is going to display a different website. It is a different website, and although it is different, it is still related to the company. And so they are not supposed to host it on an entirely new domain. They need to create a subdomain. So this is a different site. And there are several companies that have different websites on their subdomains. There are several companies that operate a blog site, and they have their blog on blog.theirdomain.com. It's a different site altogether, different design, different everything, but it is still for the company. It's still known to be for the company. It is still related to the company. And so it is not supposed to have a different domain. It's supposed to have a subdomain. And subdomains are free to create, and you can create as many subdomains as you want. This is how we are going to work on our projects. By the use of subdomains, we can create multiple domains for the different projects we are going to work on. So we can use the main domain for the company sites. Then for the news website, we can create news.yourname.com. And so you are not going to buy another name for your second project. You are going to use a subdomain for your second project. For example, we have University of Ghana's website, which is ug.edu.gh. This is not a subdomain, even though you see two dots. This particular website, their domain, their top level domain, starts from here, .edu.gh. And so this is not a subdomain. However, if you see something like alumni.ug.edu.gh, this is a subdomain. So you should be able to recognize a subdomain. You should be able to recognize a subdomain. All right. So let me see. Let me check some domains, and I will ask you whether something we will show is a subdomain or not. Let me look for anything that's bears a subdomain, and I'm going to ask you. All right. So over here, Amazon has a business called Kindle, where they do their prints and books. So I'm going to click on this, and let's look at the site design that will show. All right. So this one, this is the design they have put on it. They can put any design on it. But this Kindle is not having the Amazon.com interface. This is a different website. Because it still belongs to Amazon, they have maintained the color scheme just to show resemblance that we still belong to Amazon. But look at the domain name on the URL, on the address bar, and tell me, is this a subdomain? Tell me the subdomain you see. Look at this and tell me the subdomain you see. Look at this and tell me the subdomain you see. Tell me the subdomain you see. Tell me the subdomain you see. Okay, so when I say subdomain, I don't mean KDP. KDP is a subdomain. I don't mean KDP. Let me see who can give me the subdomain. All right. So Emmanuel got it right. The subdomain is this kdp.amazon.com. For the Yahoo, it was pots.yahoo.com. We are going to see this 1,000 times. We call this subdomain. And you can create subdomains. All right. We also have domain parking. All these configurations are done on the web server. So please put domain parking in the chat for me. Domain parking. Please put this in the chat for me. And this domain parking, you need to pay attention before you understand it. It's not as easy as the subdomain. As for subdomain, I hope you have gotten it, because A company can have a different project or a different arm, and that arm represents something different. Okay, so that arm can have their own website, but because they are connected to the main company, it is wrong to use a different domain for their site. So what they need is a subdomain. Okay, so you can see like alumni.universityofug.edu.gh. It's a different site for the alumni. You can have something like africa.bbc.com. It is a different site for BBC Africa, even though it belongs to BBC. I don't think that is their real domain name, but I'm just giving you an example. All right. But parking is something you need to listen to. It is a combination of the concept of redirection and the concept of subdomains all put together. But listen to how it works. I'm going to explain it this way. Sometimes it's not very common, but sometimes a company can have multiple addresses pointing to the same website. It is not very common, but it happens. We call that domain parking. And usually when it comes to hosting and domain registration companies, they do parking a lot. Now, let me explain the concept of parking. Let's say there is one domain name here. Please watch this. This one domain name. This is a different domain name altogether. This is a different domain name altogether. Another domain name altogether. Another domain name altogether. 5 different domain names, but there is just one website. And watch this. All of these domains, all of these domains, all of these domains, they are not just pointing to the same website, they are all displaying the same website. This is not common, but it happens. I'm talking about 5 domains all displaying the same website. And so if you use domain 1, you get the same site. If you use domain 2, do you see what I'm drawing on the page? I don't know if you see what I'm drawing. Do you see what I'm drawing? I don't know if you see what I'm drawing. Okay, fine. If you use domain 2, you get to the same site. Why is this one not sticking? If you use domain 3, I tried to trick it, but it still didn't work. Okay, let me drop it here. You see what is going on? It tries to stick. Okay, so I got it. Let me release this. It is snapping. It's trying to snap. It's doing snapping. Forget about snapping. All right, let me put it here. If you use these different names, you are still seeing the same site. And so for you, you don't know that different names are going to the same site, but this happens sometimes. It is something that happens, and it's a configuration that can be done. We call this domain parking. Multiple names being packed onto one site. We call it domain parking. Let's say, for example, let me use one example here. We have a page, a web page. Let me just use a simple example that is displaying under construction. So there's nothing really meaningful on it. It's displaying under construction. And so when you visit it, you know that the site is under construction. And the under construction page has been designed down like a template that we don't really have to change for a different site. And so what you can do is that instead of creating an under construction page for one website or one domain that its site is under construction, and creating another under construction for a second one, creating under construction for a third one, a fourth one, a fifth one, you can pack all of them onto this same site so that all of them see the same site. It is not common, but I'm just telling you that it happens. Okay, I'm just telling you that it happens. For example, with GoDaddy, if you register your name with GoDaddy and you have not yet inputted your name service, yesterday I mentioned name service, what GoDaddy will do is that they will pack your name onto one of their pages. And so if anybody visits your site, because you have not pointed it to your server, they will see that this site was registered at GoDaddy. You'll see a page because GoDaddy has packed your name onto their automated pages, one of their pages. And at the same time, there are millions of names that have just been registered and have not been pointed yet. All those domains, GoDaddy is not creating new sites for them. GoDaddy is just automatically packing them onto one page. So we call this domain packing. Packing multiple addresses to display the same design or the same interface or the same website. We call it domain packing. Sometimes too, they pack names that have expired. So if a name has expired, they have one page that has been designed as a template. So they pack all names that have been expired. So when you visit, you see that it has expired. All right, that's domain packing. I'm sure you've gotten a clue. Then we also have add-on domains. As for add-on domains, we'll touch it under hosting. You understand it perfectly. Then when it comes to domain transfer, we mentioned yesterday that a domain can be sold. When a domain is sold, what happens is that the name is transferred to another owner. So ownership of a name can be transferred. It is possible. It only needs to be done after the 60 days of the registration or the renewal. Once 60 days elapse, you have 365 days. You can transfer it to someone else. Sometimes domain transfer doesn't happen when a company sells their name, but it happens when a company changes their web designer most of the time. So we have a company A here, and this company has contracted web developer 1. And for 3 years, this person is the one managing their website. But all of a sudden, this person is no longer giving them an excellent service. So the company decides that, no, let's go and find someone else to design our site. Now, what is happening is that this company or this developer here, he registered the domain for this company. So the domain is under his account. But the company says, we don't want to work with you again. We've gotten someone else. So what is going to happen is move our domain to this person. Move our domain to this person. So this happens a lot and transfer takes place. Sometimes there can be some terms and conditions. Other times you just transfer the name and it goes there. So we will go through the process of transferring as well for you to understand the practicality, because there are certain details that need to be in place before the transfer is done. So I'll do my best for us to witness a transfer. And what is going to happen is that what I'm trying to say is that it is possible to also transfer a name from one of your accounts to another account. Let's say you had a name with GoDaddy, you want to move it to domain.com. You can do a transfer and your name can come to domain.com. All right. Let me take some time and tell you what happens during transfer and since we have learned how to choose a name, I want you to use tonight and tomorrow morning to think about your name. All right. So we are all going to register our name. So if you've not made up your mind yet, make up your mind now. You are going to register your name and you are going to control a server and you are going to build a website. You go through the process. That is why we are here. We are going to do real work, real work. All right. If a name has to be transferred, there are certain requirements that needs to be put in place. First of all, the domain has to be unlocked for transfer. Because of security, when you register a name, GoDaddy will put a lock on it just to prevent hackers from gaining access into your account and moving your domain and controlling your website. And so there's a lock on your domain. So if you are ready to move the domain, you have to unlock it, number one. So unlock the domain. So when it comes to domain transfer, number one, you unlock the domain. After you unlock the domain, you have to provide the EPP code. I didn't say CPP. I didn't say NPP. I said EPP code. Or we also call it the authorization code. Or we call it the transfer code. So every domain has a code. After you register your domain, it has a code. That code will be used during transfer. So from the old owner of the domain or the one in control of the domain now, that person needs to unlock the domain in his account. And number two, that person needs to provide the EPP code, authorization code. That person will send the code through email or possible to the new owner. The one who is about to receive the name will, first of all, communicate with the old owner and collect the code. So transfer takes place with cooperation. You can't transfer a name from someone without a person's cooperation. That is why you need to keep the names of your clients. So, and it will happen. You don't have to do it by force. But then if a client says that they want you to use their card or they want you to use their account to register for them, or they want to have control over their name, it should never ever be an argument, but it's automatic that you will have control over the domains of your clients. All right. You will have control over the domains of your clients. All right. So that's what is going to happen. And having control of the domain means you are the only one who will determine the future of that website. And it can bring you more business because every year they have to pay you. So don't lose the domain. The domain doesn't bring much money, but it leads to a lot of money because it will lead to the design money, it will lead to updates money, it will lead to hosting money, it will lead to renewal subscription. So you keep the domain. But when it's time to transfer for any reason, there has to be a cooperation between the two parties. So the first party will send a code and unlock the name and send the code to the second party. Once the second party has the code, the second party to initiate a transfer. So second party will initiate a transfer. Now, to initiate a transfer is similar to registering a domain name. All right. So let's go to GoDaddy here. And when you visit GoDaddy, we know that you search for a name here to register. Apart from registering a domain, you can go straight to GoDaddy and say that, wait a minute, I'm not registering a name. I want to do what? What do you see here? What do you see here? Please put this in a chat for me. Okay, I want to transfer a name. All right. So here, you are not registering a name. You want to transfer a name. So this transfer a name means that a name is coming to you from someone. And so you definitely need to log in your account. And so tonight we are going to give you your assignment. And the assignment we gave to the morning class, you are going to create your GoDaddy account. And I'm going to add that you also create your domain.com account because I know that you are going to work with GoDaddy and domain.com. So create your GoDaddy account, create your domain.com account. Whichever one we will use, we will determine tomorrow when we meet. But create your GoDaddy account, your domain.com account. Once you do that, you are partners and you can start registering names. So don't register the name yet unless you are sure 100% of your name, it is available. And before you tell it, you want to make sure you have secured it. Fine. All right. Fine. You can do that. But just think of the name and we can discuss the name before you register it. Nobody's going to take your name. And we are all here. Who is also there. So no one will take your name as long as you brought it first. No one can take it. If somebody takes it, we'll transfer it. That's why we have domain transfer. So we have domain transfer. All right. So transfer, you go and you request for transfer. When you request for transfer, they'll tell you to enter the name you want to transfer. So let's say I want to transfer google.com. This means that I'm going to receive google.com from the current owner. They will say, okay, you want to transfer google.com. So we are going to do some small connection. Okay, so this thing they are saying they won't allow you. Any name at all. Let me put the Bank of Ghana here. And I want Bank of Ghana to know that they have to buy that domain. All right. Okay, so here they are saying that transfer to another account. This domain is already registered at GoDaddy, okay? If it is yours, you can transfer it to another GoDaddy account. All right. So inside your domain account, so the account you are going to register, inside that account, there is a place for you to move a domain, transfer a domain out and transfer a domain in. So this thing is actually done better in your account. Okay. So tomorrow I also have an account that I'll log in and we'll go in behind and we will work on that. All right. So once you enter the domain you want to transfer, they are going to ask you to provide the EPP code or the authorization code. So once the authorization code is provided, what is going to happen is this. Once the authorization code is provided, they are going to send an email to the first party. Okay. So that is the old owner, the current owner. They will send an email to the person using what we call the admin email. So every time a domain is registered, we have information on who is, and we have an admin email section. That admin email is what will control transfers. So they send an email to that admin mail and inform the current owner that so and so is requesting to transfer this domain that is currently under your control. Click here to accept the transfer, or click here to cancel or deny the transfer. Okay, so there's something called confirmation. So the old owner will confirm. So this means that anytime there has to be a transfer, there is a direct communication between the two parties, and they have to cooperate. If the first party is not cooperating, first of all, the name will not be unlocked. You are not going to get authorization code. And this email, you can't even initiate the transfer in the first place because you need the EPP code to initiate the transfer. And an email will be sent to him and he still has to confirm. So that is what happens. But then if he confirms, transfer takes 3 to 7 days. I'm going to ask you next time how long it takes to transfer a domain. It takes 3 to 7 days to transfer a domain. So once all of these processes have been completed, it will take 3 to 7 days for the name to move from one owner to a new owner. Unless, of course, both owners are with the same registrar. Like GoDaddy is saying that this domain is already registered as GoDaddy. All right, wait a minute. So if the name I'm transferring is not from a different registrar, but the two parties all work with the same registrar, then what is going to happen is that you'll be asked to sign in your account, and all you have to do is to change the account, change the GoDaddy account. This type of transfer is not like the regular transfer where you go through all the normal processes. If it's from GoDaddy to GoDaddy, it is a much simpler process. You will just provide the account name of the new owner and also confirm the details, and GoDaddy will just switch the owner. But most of the time, domain transfer comes from one registrar to another registrar, okay? Most of the time, domain transfer comes from one registrar to another registrar. So that is what happens with domain transfer. All right, so we've looked at domain transfer, and we've covered almost everything we are supposed to cover. And with time, we are going to come across these things again and the most relevant ones, and we will do justice to them. So right now, what is left for you is to come up with your name and get your name registered. So come up with your name. After you do your research and you come up with a good name, you search if it is available. Once it is available, then you can go ahead and you can share with us. You see, you have to also get input from others. So you can get others to tell you if it is okay. Or tomorrow you can share it in class. We all look at it. And if it is good, you get a thumbs up and you can go ahead and you register. Now, I'm going to talk about other extensions quickly. But before that, I'm going to mention that there has been a few reports. It shouldn't be, but there has been a few reports. I'm just mentioning this now, that somebody searched his name in the GoDaddy or in another search box in another registrar's website, and by the next day it was taken. It is very possible that it is coincidence because there are a lot of people trying to get the same thing. So if it is possible, it could be coincidence. But it is also possible that one way or another, the name also gets seen and clicked by someone. It shouldn't happen. It doesn't happen, but there has been reports. Okay, so if you've worked around this for a long time, sometimes it happens. So if you get a beautiful name and you want to check for availability, right now I'm just going to mention that when you search in GoDaddy, you should be ready to register it within that day or the next day, because we've had it before, and who is will confirm that this name was just registered yesterday. And hopefully, if there's no privacy on it, you will know which country it was registered from, so that you don't blame someone next to you that they registered it, because you will see the person who registered it, their country, their address, where they are from, and all that. So I'm going to mention another site, instant domain search.com. You can put that down. For this particular domain search site, is purely created for searching, and your name will not ever be intercepted over here. All right. I'm not saying GoDaddy there will be an interception or someone will see, but there has been reports. Okay, so just to be on the safer side, sometimes some names are dream names and they are so good. So you can do your test on instantdomainsearch.com. And when you are ready to buy, then you can go to GoDaddy or domain.com. But I'm not okay telling you these things that you shouldn't be comfortable or trust domain.com, GoDaddy.com when searching for a name. It doesn't happen. It shouldn't happen. I'm just saying that there has been a report, especially on GoDaddy, that someone tried his name and the next few hours or the next day, it was taken by someone else. It's possible it was a coincidence, or most of these stories are coincidence. But to be on the safer side, not saying this is not safe, use this one to do your testing. And when you are ready to buy, then you move here, you enter it and buy. So you are not going to search and leave it. All right. So the assignment for today, register an account with GoDaddy. Register an account with GoDaddy. Get all your customer details, your login details. Also register an account with domain.com. Okay, you need these two partners. You need them. So do that. Then number two, come up with your domain name. That's your assignment. Come up with your domain name, and your domain name should be tied to your company name. So create your web company or your tech company. Let's call it your tech company. You provide web services. Very soon, I don't know, maybe we'll learn about mobile app development. I can teach you that. And you can also provide that as a service. When you learn about cybersecurity, you can provide cybersecurity services over there. When you learn data science, you can provide AI services and other things over there. And you can start building your tech company and adding services onto services. And it's going to scale with time. So choose a good name. That's why we spend time talking about good names. So our first assignment will be to have our name, and we'll have the name registered. So if anybody has issues with how they will pay, how they will register, latest 1 week from now, all those issues should have been resolved. And those who don't have any issues, after our meeting tomorrow, you quickly register your name. So for now, just be sure you have the right name. And I'm telling you this because of what I told you yesterday. You can't edit a name. So when you see something that is good, just try and talk to a few people about it. You can bring it to class. We all look at it. If it's great, and if it has the look of an international company, we will all give you a thumbs up, and you go ahead and get your name registered. So let's find a name. That's the most important thing. And once we register, it's just a 1 minute task. So we can just register anytime. And what I wanted to say about other extensions is this. If for one reason we don't get a coupon to reduce the price for us, okay, what we can do is that there are other extensions that are automatically less in price. And you know, we buy domains by extension. Look at .ai now, it's expensive, $54. But there are other extensions. Look at .online. .online is just $1. And this one is not coupon price. This one is real price. So for the sake of the practicals, for the sake of the learning, if you can't get a .com because of financial reasons, at least find an extension that is cheap. We have some extensions that are cheap. Look at GoDaddy selling .com, $12 now. Site is just $1, and that is the price. The store is $1, 1.7. So even if we don't get a coupon to reduce .com, for the sake of learning, you can just buy a domain, but everyone needs a domain. All right. So some domains are really, really cheap, and you can buy them and we can use it. C'est clair? You understand? Tell me we c'est clair. And if you understand, then I'm going to wrap up here, and tomorrow we will continue. Olubukola, I see. Thank you. All right. So thank you. It's been great talking to you, learning with you. We are delving deeper, okay? You are going to be shocked the practical things we are going to do with this class. Yes. So please, all the content will be coming to the LMS. We are having some internet issues. So for the past 2 days, we've been working with ISPs. Today, they actually came to the office. They have set up the whatever setup they have to do. We are just waiting for 1 or 2 things to get a line clear for us to reuse it. So the video for yesterday is ready. So it's just an upload that is that has delayed. So by tonight it will also come up, and all the content will come. The old videos are also coming. So everything will be coming. And there are some of you are on Slack, but you keep saying you are not on Slack. Meanwhile, when we check the Slack account, you are there. So please, if you have confirmed your name, if you have confirmed your name, if you have received the email for Slack, and you have received the email for Slack and you have clicked on the acceptance, you are on Slack. You are probably not getting something right, but when we check Slack, we see you there. So please make sure that you are on Slack. And there are some of you, we've sent your certificates to you, but you say it hasn't been received. Probably it is your email that is not working, but we have sent it. All right. Everybody has received, and you are on Slack. So if you are not, just check your Slack account and check and be sure, okay? Because there are some of you, you sent a mail that you are not on Slack, but the confirmation was sent to everybody. and you are there. We've actually seen you on Slack. So please check it very well before um, you contact us. All right. So all the best. Keep well. Enjoy the night, and we will meet you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for taking your time to go through the session with us. We're grateful. And so please, the assignment is to register an account with GoDaddy and domain.com, and then you find a good name that you are going to use for tomorrow's lesson. So please do that. And then before we meet tomorrow for our class, okay? Thank you all for joining and also joining today's combined session. Thank you for actively participating. And as I said, we'll do all to upload all the videos there on Slack so that you can catch up. For those who are still yet to, or you've missed some lessons, you can get to catch up, okay? And once it's uploaded, you get a notification that, so kindly be checking your mail as well. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you. This is where we draw the curtains on today's lesson. And then we'll meet tomorrow, same time, to continue the good works. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the evening. Good night and bye-bye. Bye, everyone.